Morning, everybody. It is 8:31. It's time to call the meeting of February 18th to order. You have before you the agenda, and the first item is to approve the agenda, and I see that we do have two agenda additions here from the Highway Department.
Move to approve with additions.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Okay, we also see that we have no citizens in the audience today, so we will move forward. The next item is the approval of the minutes of February 4th and 11th, 2014, and you have those printouts in front of you.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Next item, we have the approval of payment of bills and vouchers, and I see that they have been delivered.
Mr. Chair, move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pay the bills. Any further discussion on that motion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Okay. So we just zipped right through those things. And we have our highway engineer is just slightly delayed here, so we okay, yeah, all right. Let's, Brian, are you ready to talk to us about, so we're going to be moving down to item number 4, which is the letter of support for farming the Dell, the Red River Valley project. Good morning, Brian.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you, and I guess I see I am presenting the letter on the farmer in the
Yes,
Dell.
you are.
You're all ready to go, aren't you?
I'm ready to go, yeah.
You going to sing that song, The Farmer in the Dell?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll tune right in. Well, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, it was January 14th in which you received a presentation from a group that is very proactive in finding alternate ways to help some of our disabled, I don't even want to say youth, but young adults and adults. And you saw the presentation in which they are actively seeking to raise funds, to buy property, to build a working, I'll say, hobby farm that could help sustain some of the individuals and maybe even sell some of the products that they raise on that farm. And they will be seeking legislation to help support that program if they can get it off the ground. It'll take a lot of private donations, and what they'd asked is for your endorsement. I won't say necessarily support, because the letter doesn't say it supports the concept, and you're endorsing the theory about looking for alternate ways to assist and care for our disabled. So with that, you have a letter in front of you to send to support the farmer in the Dell idea.
I move to approve. It looks like an excellent program for me. So.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? And again, I think for the public, if they have any interest in understanding that, they can go back to, do we have the date of when they were here? They can review the meeting of January 14th and see it was a very good presentation. So, okay, with that, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Commissioner Gross just handed me just a little note that he had received from Glenn Erlacher, was one of the people that was presenting on that date.
We all got it.
Oh, did you all get it?
Got a copy of it.
Okay. And they were just thanking you for your support, it looks like. And I was going to read it, but if you all received it, then we're good.
And they asked for the letter of support, so.
Yeah, okay. Very good.
Thank you, Brian. And Mr. Overbo just walked out the door. I think maybe we should deny his first couple of requests to get his attention. You want to get this thing done, don't you?
That's on the agenda.
All right, so we can maybe get one committee report in here. Frank, are you ready to go with your
Sure.
committee reports?
On Wednesday, I had executive meeting with FMCOG. We got some, having quite a few meetings there, not quite a few, several meetings this month because of some personnel issues going on there. So the executive committee's been meeting several times, and so we're working on that. Thursday at Soil and Water Conservation District, where we went over some new tax laws on land going into conservation. Also, they're interested in weed spraying, how much our budget is on weed spraying. I don't know if we can get that to them. I got to get that number from you. How much we budgeted for weed spraying. I think last year was $14,000. And they want to see if that figure changed. Do you know, Dave, did that figure change at all, or?
We've been kind of ratcheting that up a little bit. I think the last
Yeah.
we got to was about 14,000.
Yes. It was at least 14,000.
Okay, it was at least that, okay.
I'll check on that, though, to be sure.
Then Friday, I sat in with the highway department. Dave had a meeting there with all the townships, and a very good meeting there where they discussed the new rate, the new way they're going to calculate the mileage charge for the townships, you know, and they came up with a new system. Instead of going each year, how much last year cost, that's what we're going to charge you this year. They're going to go with a 5-year average and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, Dave, you're going to be up here. Do you want to come up here for a minute? I know John and I kind of worked with the tracking committee on that tonight. It would, now that Frank's talking about it, I'd kind of like to, what was the reaction from the township group on that, between the two of you?
Well, I felt they had really not enjoyed it. I mean, they really received it well, you know, because I think it's a lot better way to do it instead of going up 1 year and then down next year, you know, so go with a 5-year average, and that way they sort of can calculate what they're going to have the next year. Okay. So I think they received it well, and I guess the other thing that we did at that meeting was the gravel bits. He asked for whether they want to go countywide with gravel bits or individual townships, so. But
Dave, did you get the same?
Absolutely. About a year ago or so when we had this meeting, they kind of brought that same issue to the table, that they would like to see something more consistent, which is exactly what we talked about at our highway tracking committee meeting. And this 5-year average was very well received. You know, the dollar amount with the 5-year average went up about $60 per mile or so. Had we not done that, of course, it would have went up a lot more. But they realized that there will be some years that they probably will pay more, you know, on a good year than, but then it's going to be offset by years like this year where they're paying a little less than the previous year's total actual costs.
Yeah, this was a good year to make that move, since it saved them money this year. It was very clear for them.
And the whole formula still satisfies our goal as to wanting to get to actual costs, but as part of that actual cost, we're doing that actual cost based on a 5-year average. So ultimately, if you were to take a look over a 5-year period, you're going to probably find that they are paying an average cost, but there's going to be a year where they might pay a little bit more, and a year they're going to pay a little bit less. But over the course of that period of 5 years, it remains much more consistent, but still they are paying what the true cost, right?
Absolutely. Yep, they are. Yeah, depreciation.
I don't think there was anybody that was opposed to it.
Well, they shouldn't have been, because the alternative wasn't very good.
No. Anyway, this year wasn't, but.
I think they understand the numbers a lot better now. This was year 2 of doing this, and they appreciate it. We even had a couple, or for one township that didn't contract with us, that came like they did last year as well, just to see things. So I thought that was good. They're still staying involved, and sounds positive. I kind of asked one of the members what he thought, and he thought it looked really positive. Whether he didn't really say whether they would switch over or not, but nonetheless, he wasn't real negative about things. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Frank. Did you have any more report? Okay, so we'll get back to committee reports a little bit later. We'll move back to our regular agenda items at 8:35 with County Engineer Dave Overbo. And your first item is the approval of the Dilworth SRTS project SP 145911005.
Yeah, the first three items, I guess, are pretty much revolve around the Safe Routes to School project. And I'm assuming that we do need on our end to approve the bid as well. The City of Dilworth advertised and held the bid opening. Their estimate was just $5 over 300, so it's $300,000 basically was their estimate. Project came in at 286. This was the one that they let last fall, I think late, like July or August of 2013. Bids came in sky high because it was a bad time of year and people were real busy last year. So they opted to re-advertise and open bids again, and they got a little better prices. So seems to fit within their budget. This is Safe Routes to School, which is really good for them because it is 100% funded. It's not an 80-20 split. It's a federal aid project. The county has already approved being a sponsor for the project. The City of Dilworth, and I believe they already did approve it, based on county approval as well. So maybe we would also approve the bid, based on City of Dilworth approval.
Okay.
I move to approve that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on item number one.
Maybe, should I read
Item
the...
1, 2, and
Why don't
3.
you say what the motion should be?
Yeah, the contractor that got the low bid was Celine Brothers out of Hawley, and their low bid was $286,928.00.
So the motion is to approve the bid and the low bidder? Is that what we're doing here? Because I thought I heard you say that we should approve the bid. Is that?
That's correct, yeah. We would approve that low bid of
Okay.
$286,928.
And that's what Frank's motion was. Okay, right, very good. Okay, any other comments? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Item number 2, approval of agreement with the City of Dilworth regarding SP 145911005. That's just part of the same thing?
Correct, yeah. This is the actual agreement between the county and the City of Dilworth that lays out some of the responsibilities. This is the same agreement we've used every time we've done a project with the City of Dilworth. Talks a little bit about who's doing what and how the funding and the partial estimates are being paid.
I would move approval of the agreement with the City of Dilworth.
Second.
Further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next item, approval of resolution amendment with Sullivan Brothers regarding SB 145911005.
Sure. This is something that I believe came from the county attorney's office with the most recent agreement we did prior to this project. And what it says is it's an addendum to the first agreement we just passed. This is an addendum with the city, with the contractor, stating that the county is specifically only liable to the funds paid to us by the City of Dilworth. So they can't come back on us for any additional funds other than what the project withholds. So I got some legal language, and like I said, it was drafted by Michelle Winkus when she was at attorney's office.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve regular agenda item number 3.
All right. We have a
Second.
motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Item number 4, approval of final documents for SP 14100-005 road reconstruction project in Georgetown, Minnesota.
Yeah, this is our grading and paving project that we did in kind of a joint project with the City of Georgetown. It was a county project. It's actually a CP, not an SAP, which basically means it's got county funds and not state aid funds. Their share of the project was funded by FEMA as well, so there's probably going to be a little lag time by the time we get the FEMA funds. I think they still owe us for some 2010 and 2011 flood items, but the project came in a little higher than we had hoped. What we did on this project, we did do some soil borings, and the soil borings, believe it or not, showed there was a certain amount of aggregate underneath the old road bed. So we designed for taking it off and putting it back on. And for one reason or another, when we started tearing it apart, it wasn't consistent under the road bed, which we don't see very often, but nonetheless, we were quite a bit short. I mean, $30,000 was our overage. I would assume 20 of it or so was probably the gravel that we were short, so we had to incorporate new gravel above and beyond what we estimated. So that was the biggest cause of the overrun. But the original bid at the time was $412,172, and the final project to be approved is $446,417.32. I think it was about 8% over, which we hate to see them get that far over, but it wasn't weather, it wasn't a mess up in the plans, it was actually, and we did do soil boring. Sometimes you can look at old plans and assume there's 8 inches or 12 inches, but we even did borings, and they weren't consistent with what we found under the road, which is kind of odd. It's the first time it's ever happened that you don't find what you...
Can you explain the cost share and the overrun? Is there a cost share, or is it...
I'm assuming that they're probably get a little bit capped on that. The FEMA funds are definitely capped, so it's going to be a county.
And we've incorporated those extra dollars into our redefining of our plan, of our 5-year plan?
Correct.
I'll move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Agenda item number 5, approval of final documents for SAP 14-631-022 and SAP 14-633-016 intersection project in Hawley.
Yeah, this is for our big joint project out in Hawley. It was a 3-way split between the city of Hawley and MnDOT and Clay County. The project absolutely went perfect. Everything went really well out there. Very little, if any, issues. There was small day-to-day things, but there was nothing major contractual that we had issues with. The project actually came in a little bit under bid. I think it was $2,374,377 was the original contract. The amount to be approved is $2,369,327.23.
I would move approval of the final documents and payment to Central Specialties.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Okay, then we have on our regular sheet here, adopt resolution to reimburse cities for money spent on city streets in 2013.
This was an agenda addition. I believe I got a couple more items that'll come after this one.
Yeah, I'm going off of our agenda first here, of the printed agenda sheet, so then we'll get to, we'll do item number 6.
Yep.
We'll get, so,
This is our annual resolution that we put together. It incorporates the money that we've got in agreement with the city of Moorhead for them taking care of the county roads within the city limits, as well as the funds that we give to the other cities for taking care of the roads within their city limits as well. I've researched this a little bit, and I don't know where it specifically says that this is for money taking care of our roads. The best I can understand, it's monies that we have always kind of give them to help them with some of their maintenance and projects in their cities. And I'll keep trying to do some research on that, but that's the best that I can find out, and it's something that's been going on for 30 or 40 years as far as the history that I could find. But Lori's kind of has a formula for putting these together, how much each city gets, and like I said, it's something that I've always kind of wanted to dig into.
well, doesn't this go to, I know within the city of Moorhead, we have all of our county roads, and they maintain them for us as part of the...
Correct, and that's in the first part of the resolution does specifically talk about that, and then it says, further be it resolved that the cities be reimbursed for money spent on city streets for 2013. So like the cities down below, it's something that I haven't dug into and wasn't able to really find. I've dug into it a little bit, but I haven't been able to find my answer on why we've done that, but.
Well, I know it's been done every year I've been here.
It's like 30 or 40 years, I think, this resolution.
It's just simply a way to share, I think, with the cities, some of the revenue raised. I would move the resolution to distribute the funds as indicated.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. Further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Okay, Dave, we're going to move on to agenda item number 6 that was in your handout, and that is the approval of the right-of-way acquisition along Cassaw 18 for SAP 14-618-013.
I guess I was maybe asked for a little help with this item, because as I wasn't able to fully sit down with Jenny on this, but years ago when we would get right-of-way approved, back in the day, Tom Barth was our appraiser, and it was pretty simple back then. He would appraise our project right-of-way that we needed as tillable land, maybe non-tillable if it wasn't, like maybe slough land or hay land or something, and then we'd have residential, and the previous engineer would come in and he would get those different land types approved, and then we would go out and parcel by parcel, based on the appraisal, purchase right-of-way. And I was hoping to get back to that same process. So in my packet, based on the appraisal book, there's about 5 or so different categories of land. He calls it croppable land at $7,000 per acre. There's residential land at $12,000. There's some wooded residential land that he valued at $19,000. There's different parcels along County Road 18 that he identified in these categories. And then this is real standard. We've been doing it since we did the County Road 13 grading project south of Moorhead. But when we convert the existing 66 feet from easement to fee, that conversion, that's been the same for about 7, 8, or 5 or 6 years. And then the temporary easements, that's just basically that is going to end up being land rent for a couple of years to put topsoil on outside of the ditch limits, and that's kind of standard. What isn't real standard is there's some, almost a little bit like a wild card item. There's some trees that we're going to take. There's some fences within there, and I don't know if the board could approve those first 5 items based on the appraisal, and those are standard. Those apply to each parcel in a real standard way. But the trees and the landscape items are not real standard, because not every parcel's got 8 trees or this type of tree, and he identifies them by the species too and puts a dollar amount on them in the appraisal book. So I guess my effort here was try to get something that we can approve rather simply like we used to, and then it would be based on that appraisal book. So the document that I just handed out was one way we could approve it, and that's there is actual 17.785 acres of croppable land at 7,000. There's 1.165 acres at 12,000. There's a very small parcel you can see. I think it's only the one parcel on the south side of 18. It was owned by Fiandaca, and he recently sold it. But anyway, that's the 0.2 acres at 19,000. So you can see the total cost of deeded property is that dollar amount, and then the cost to cure easement to fee interest, the temporary easements, and the tree fence damage is the remainder. And I guess I don't know if we need to approve it based on those kind of that language, or if we could have, the way that my agenda packet had it, we could approve croppable, residential, wooded, the easement conversion, the temporary easement, and then if we could approve the trees based on the appraisal book using the cost to cure method, and the landscape items also on the appraisal book itself. And I don't know if I wish I would have had time to visit with Jenny on this a little bit more, but I guess that's kind of the crossroads that I'm at.
Dave, I received one call from a constituent up there, and it I think all these people are really looking forward to seeing something done with County 18,
sure,
with the road itself, because it definitely needs it. And they all respect and understand that. But I hadn't had a chance to get back to this individual, John Jolins.
Sure.
Where John lives up
Yep,
there.
yep, he called too.
He's one of the ones where, in his message to me, he was concerned about some trees.
He's got some real big cottonwoods, and he's in his parcel. He's going to have more than I think he's got croppable land along there, but I know he's definitely in the residential land, and then he's got the tree and fence or damage. Okay. He's got some of those items.
So I wonder if at the time, if he didn't know if there was going to be compensation for that stuff.
Sure.
I would kind of request if you could maybe
Yep.
touch base with them and just.
He called probably about the same time he called you.
Okay.
And what we agreed to is once the appraisal book was done, I told him we would sit down separately. We do have a landowner meeting, I guess it's tonight, at the highway department. But I told him I would sit down and go through things. And at the time I visited with him, he didn't know specifically if he was, if we were going to take the trees and not compensate him. I'm sure he was not happy with that at all.
Right.
If he was going to get compensated for the trees and then could use that money to purchase possibly a different tree, cottonwoods, as they get to the age they are now, they're maybe a little bit of a hazard because they could fall down and then he's responsible for them and that sort of thing. But I think...
Well, I know he shared some concern about a value
Sure.
there that...
Yep.
But you've been talking to him.
Yeah, I'll get a hold of him as soon as I get done with the meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
Who's doing this appraisal now?
This is Tingham Appraisal out of Detroit Lakes, the same appraiser we've probably used at least in the last 5 to 7 years. We haven't used, I don't believe, well, that one project on County Road 11, we used ProSource, I believe it was, when we acquired for the bridge there.
Yeah.
We used them, but we've been using Tingham based on, now that, he wasn't available, I believe, on a short notice at that time, but we used him ever since.
Okay, but is he changed his method? Is that the issue that we're...
No, I think he's been actually kind of taking a look at. I think the tree idea is something that other counties have used for many, many years. We typically haven't been doing that. We've been basically taking them and not putting value on them. Prior to using Tingham, we had a real hard time acquiring right away, if you remember. It was almost to a point where we were condemning parcels every time we did a project, and if we didn't condemn them, the landowners almost unwillingly signed, but they signed because they knew the public, the eminent domain process, what it is.
But these trees are on their private land that
Yes.
we're now asking to take.
We're taking them, yep, absolutely.
So they deserve a value.
Yep, I believe so too.
So anyway, so there's a slight variation with the handouts you gave here.
Correct.
Versus what you gave us in your packet in terms of, certainly with the acreage numbers, they match up, but it's when you get into the easement fee conversion, the temporary easement, and the trees, we're praised using the cost to cure method. What do you recommend that we, which of these, because otherwise it looks like you just have them all combined with a lump sum total dollar amount, and is that where you want to go at this point with?
Maybe that would be the way to do it. We could appraise croppable land at $7,000 an acre, and we could approve that dollar amount. The residential land at $12,000 per acre, the wooded land at $19,000 per acre. Or maybe we just approve as the document I put here. Maybe we just approve everything on that.
Well, the only difference on that, because those three numbers you just read are the same on both sheets.
Correct.
The difference being is you get down to the other costs associated fee, interest, temporary easements, and tree and fence damages. You're kind of locking in that $27,990 number, whereas in your other one here, we're not locking in any dollar number there yet. Are we confident that $27,990 would be sufficient?
I believe there would be no room for negotiation on those items because it includes the conversion.
Okay,
it includes the temporary easement, and it includes the trees and the landscape items.
Okay.
So,
Based
yeah.
on our normal process. Then.
Correct. Yeah, there's really not much room for negotiation there.
Okay, just to make it clear, these trees are probably part of the same land that the 19,000 covers the land, right? The wooded area?
Correct.
But it's the loss of the vegetation that's the issue, yeah.
Yep.
I don't know how he came up exactly with the 27,000, but it's certainly a fair number, I think.
Wait.
If for some reason the cost would go over $27,990, I think Dave could come back to the board.
Yep, that's correct. I would have to because it wouldn't no longer match.
That would be a big issue for us.
All right.
I would move to approve the right-of-way acquisition with these numbers.
Okay. We have a motion and a second right away for SAP 014-618-013. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. And we have one more, Dave. We have the approval of annual township maintenance contract numbers for 2014-2015.
Yeah, like we talked about a little earlier at Frank's committee item, We did meet with the townships. We brought them all in. We went over the numbers. Things went extremely well. I basically explained to them that we had, a real rough winter in 2013, combined about 1,800 more snow removal hours. If the contract was only blading gravel, it would be within $10 to $20 every year. It would never fluctuate because every operator puts in a little over 1,000 hours a year blading gravel, and that's real consistent, and it doesn't really change. It's the snow removal that changes. In 2012, I think we had a few hundred hours of snow removal. In 2013, we had considerable more. So that was kind of the big difference there. The previous contract was at $7.42 per mile. After the numbers were completed for 13, and we looked at a 2009 to 2013 5-year average with a 1.5% inflationary factor, being the fact that it's anywhere from 12 to 18 months that we've already paid for labor, parts, fuel. So we have a little 1.5% inflationary factor in there, being that we're upfronting the contract for a year to a year and a half. The new rate would be set at $8.05 per mile upon approval by the board.
And that, these run from July to?
Correct, yeah. July 1 of 14 to June 30 of 2015 is the period.
And one of the things that we talked about now, so the revenue dollars that you incorporated into your budget was based on the 742, wasn't it?
Correct, yeah. So my budget for 2014.
So you're actually going to be getting more revenue.
Yep. So for the first half of the year, we will be collecting at 742,
which is low compared to
correct,
what the actual cost was, but then
yes,
it'll be made up in the second half.
Yep. We are going to be a little bit short on that this year, so I'm going to have to, towards the end of the year, keep an eye on things and try to balance out, because the revenues coming in are going to be less than what went out.
Okay, very good. Okay, what's the board's wishes?
I would move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the maintenance contract for 2014-15 with the townships. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. David, do you have anything else for us this morning?
I do not.
You had quite a list today.
Yeah, I had a lot of items.
Getting ready for spring?
Yep, absolutely. We're going to, like Frank mentioned, we did talk a little bit about gravel, and initially there was a lot of interest in looking at a countywide combined gravel bid. After the meeting, I think some of the townships probably get a pretty good price from the contractors. We do a little bit more work on our end. We make them test it and give us results prior to accepting the gravel, and they don't do quite as much of that. So I think it does drive the price up a little bit, but then you know what you're getting, I guess. So I imagine, I think we're probably going to get maybe up to 3 to 4 townships that would bid with us. That's just kind of my guess or my feeling right now, but we'll have to see over the next couple of months, I guess, if they come with us or not. I know our guys were out yesterday, with those Monday holidays, they're always tricky, but this time we were ready for this one. The wind blew extremely hard on Sunday night, so we had most of our fleet out yesterday cleaning the roads because we knew the school buses had to be on the road this morning. So it's expensive on our part, but we've got it's our duty to clean the roads, so we were out doing it. I know.
So I was walking out of the Moorhead Post Office last Friday, I think it was, and somebody came up to me and said, make sure you tell your highway department staff how good of a job they're doing. So somebody out there recognizes that you're doing some nice things, and that's always nice to hear.
And to be honest, I've had way more positive calls this year. People saying thank you, a couple of emails, and it's been really nice. Been getting a lot more positive calls than we've gotten any negative, so it's been really nice.
Very well.
Yep.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Clay County logo selection. Mark Sloan. Good morning, Mark.
Morning. Well, I was here a couple months ago, and I told you I'd be back, so here I am. As you remember, we are in the process of spooling up a new website. That process is underway right now, and if you just want to put it in your mind, on August 16th, we'll be having a big celebration because that's our go-live date with our new website. There'll be cookies in case. it's going to be, it's a big day, and there's a lot of stuff that's happening behind the scenes to make that happen. But this, as we mentioned then, it opens an opportunity of how we want our county logo to look. Because here in just a couple weeks, we need to submit to our contractor our color schemes and the size placing of the logo and how it's going to fit on our pages. So we're moving along rather quickly. So after we met last time with you, I went back to our Strive for Excellence Committee. We discussed it quite a bit, and what we came back with was a couple of things. One was we wanted to stay true to, we looked at our existing logo and where it had come from, and there was a group that put that together about a little over 20 years ago. And that logo was designed specifically to reflect the agricultural roots of Clay County, which is why it's got the green text on it, and then the gray represented the clay, and then it had the state of Minnesota on it. So one of the things we talked about was we wanted to remain true to the agricultural roots, as well as we also decided that it'd probably be best not to go through what's called a rebranding, which is a totally different look and color, because our hope was that if we pick a new logo, we just phase it in over time. You know, we keep using our existing stuff, and then as we buy new stationery or whatever might happen to be, we put the new logo on it. So what we decided was to try to stay close to the same color scheme, you know, because we've got green is on everything, and so we said, let's try that. So that's, we kind of came up with those ideas. We sent an email out to all of our county staff and said, hey, if anybody's got any ideas, please send them to us. And I got about 15 messages that said, we like the existing logo, don't mess with it. And we had a couple other ideas, and we actually got a couple submissions. And so what I did is I put them all together, and let me, what was that little box? We ended up with 3 choices. Option A is, of course, our existing logo, and it's a relatively decent logo. The only complaint we've had internally with it is, well, some people don't like green, but is we've had issues with the gray underneath the word county when it comes to reproducibility. Reproducibility is when we're trying to put it onto other things like jackets or mugs or whatever it might happen to be. And that was one of the ideas, was to do something that got away from that. Option B, that logo, that's one that actually was developed by our Strive for Excellence Committee. Kind of came up with that concept. It's got the same colors and kind of the same layout. It just, we tried to make it simpler, so because the fewer colors we're dealing with, the cheaper it is to reproduce logos. And then option C is one that was actually submitted to us by ended up being a citizen. A friend of a county worker asked if he could submit an idea, and I said, by all means. So he put that one together to us, a guy named Grady Carlson. I think he teaches at the high school. But he came up with that bottom idea. And so my question now for you folks is I'm looking for direction. Are we going to, if we're going to change, are we, the bottom 2 are just concept. I mentioned this in my thing. It was really redundant, actually. I want to send those conceptual concepts. But in the end, they need to be fleshed out some more and refined so that they're reproducible. But at this point in time, they're just an idea. So what I'm really looking for today is maybe some discussion of where we want to go. Do we want to make any change, or don't we? Or I'm just kind of looking for some feedback from you folks about what do you think?
Well, I'll start. I look at these, and I in option B, the one thing I like a little bit better in terms of that is the more boldness of the green. Mm-hmm. But I still like option A. I just do. It's clay stands out. It's I see that on our vehicles. It looks nice on our vehicles. You know, the option C, I'm not a big fan of ones where you have to start reading things in a circle. It isn't easy. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a really nice design, but from a standpoint of reading stuff in circles, but anyway, I'm kind of stuck in A. I kind of like it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, myself, I do prefer option
Well, Mark was talking about reproducing that that grades look tough to reproduce, I would say C would be even tougher.
Yes?
It would be.
Oh, yeah, because we have more colors.
Yeah, more colors there, so I would say that would be tougher, so, I guess I'm sort of, like Kevin said, that B really brings it out there, and I sort of, if I had to choose something, as far as, if you're looking at reproducing and stuff you got a problem with, I could be going with B, but, C looks very nice, but, I don't know whether we could use it for some things or some, or whatever, but, to reproduce that thing on stuff on it, like I say, a shirt or something like that, I'd say that'd be pretty tough to reproduce, but,
Like A or B, but if Frank likes B and you two like A, then I'd say B just so John has to decide.
Well, I've always liked our logo. I think it's, compared to other county logos, and it seems to me it's always clear, it's easy to read, there's no question about it. I do like the boldness of B, and the letters, the way they're rounded or shaded, and, that is kind of neat. But it seems to me that Minnesota is not going to be readable even. On there, it's just kind of all mushed. It looks like a line underneath county. And for some reason, I see horseshoes in that B.
Yeah, I do.
And I don't know that symbolizes anything for us. So I think, unless there's an overwhelming reason why we need to make a change, I'm more comfortable with A. I mean, is there marketing-wise, is it important to change occasionally, or not? It seems to me it's a brand that people recognize, that it's comfortable, it's pleasing to look at. So I guess I don't see any reason to change.
Right.
well, I guess I never understood what that gray thing was in option A, underneath there.
Well, I've always seen that as the earth, as the ground, as the clay.
And now I understand it, well, that's fine, I guess, I do. I don't see anything wrong with it either, and like I say, the only thing I was said about B, it is boldness, but I can see where that Minnesota, we probably have to do something different with Minnesota, yeah.
And do you need it when you get...
Yeah, do you need it when you get the state?
Minnesota is a state where the outline is very, very recognizable. So.
And then if we're going to take Minnesota out of there, then why don't we stay with 8?
Yeah.
That's right.
So, Mr. Berg, what do you think?
I think it's kind of interesting that Commissioner Whalen wanted to look at a 3-2 vote. You don't want to look at a 3-2 vote on anything else.
He just woke up on the wrong side of the bed.
Well, yeah, I had and Mark pointed that out, that there were a couple employees, longtime employees of the county, I know, that contacted me that said, we're kind of comfortable with what we have, but really like to see it stay. And I think you guys have said it well. Why change if you're not going to make a marketing? I mean, we're not in the business of marketing our logo as businesses, and frankly, someone told me this morning that simplicity is kind of the trend for logos, small and easily read, and yeah.
That's the trend.
Yeah. So I think
All
that
right.
speaks well.
So, Vicki, everything is resting on you now. What do we do?
No change is good.
Okay.
As usual, Vicki will decide.
So, Mark, are you saying that even staying with the option A, there still needs to be some work done to it to?
No,
Okay.
we just move ahead.
Just move ahead.
No, it just, when we were doing the website thing, somebody asked the question, and I thought, I don't know, it's a question we've not asked for a very long time. We should probably ask.
There's nothing wrong with asking.
No, so now we know where to go. So we'll stay with our existing logo, and we'll move along.
But the nice thing about that is that those who went through to design that originally did a good thing, and we want to keep it.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad thing.
No.
I know if we could incorporate that C into some things, I don't know, it's a very nice thing,
Of the two, I actually like the bolder green in two than in one. You see the difference in the boldness of the color.
Right.
But again, even to implement that, is it worth the cost just to make
Right.
the green color a different shade of green? I don't know that it is. So. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Probably thank that Grady Carlson for his work. on
Yeah,
that.
I will.
Yes, I think if you could
He's a
send
local
him
artist.
something.
and,
It's a
so
nice
he did a lot of work
logo.
on it, so, yeah.
Very good. Okay, our farmer in the Dell is done, and we'll continue on with, at this time, with committee reports. Wayne?
Tuesday, February 11th, the Clay County Collaborative Executive Committee of the Governance Board meeting, general business, and we're still waiting for an appointment to the collaborative from the city. We increased the collaborative stipend to $50 to be in line with the county. We discussed the 2014 budget, and then we had the coordinator's report. Saturday, February 15th, for Lake Agassiz Regional Library, we had a Northern Lights Library Network Board meeting, general business, it was at Moorhead State, and then we had a luncheon with legislators and librarians throughout the 23-county region, and it was very, very successful. And then today, February 18th, Personnel Issues Committee meeting, and I'll defer to our chair on that to report, and also our county administrator, and that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Grant?
Let's see, I had Greater Fargo-Moorhead Economic Development Corporation Executive Committee meeting last week, and that was general business. There's about what's going on in 2014. There's a lot of things going on with the EDC for this coming year. Had a Northwest Regional Radio Board meeting, and that was general business, and we did appoint John Okeson, a Becker County Commissioner, as the chair of that organization for this year. Had a Restorative Justice and Reentry Program meeting, and everything's going well with that program. We did receive those significant grants to keep it going, so that's positive, and I gave each of you, they had done a brochure on what exactly restorative justice is, which is pretty informative. So, and let's see, I think that was it for me.
Okay, thank you. John?
Okay, we had highway tracking after the meeting last Tuesday on the 11th, and we gave final go-ahead with the stuff we've already talked about as far as the what to charge the townships for the road service and so on, and made the decision to run by the averaging, and as was said, that was well received, and I think that's a good way to go. It certainly will take the highs and lows out of what we're doing each year. There was that afternoon the ribbon cutting at the MCOMS for the new exhibit, which I really encourage everybody to participate in or to see. It's about World War II, and it's the whole thing is about how Clay County contributed to the war effort, and it's going to be in place for until the end of 15, so it'll be there for just about 2 years. They're going to do a number of other things during that period to bring out important aspects of the war effort, and one is to try to establish victory gardens throughout the county, like was done during the war, and with the encouragement that the production would go towards feeding the hungry and homeless and so on. So I think it's an exciting community effort and that would encourage people to go and see these. It's been said that they think everyone will recognize and know somebody whose story is being told in that exhibit. They've really done a great job of researching how people contributed to the war effort. Okay, we did have a campaign committee meeting on Wednesday last week too for the Historical Society, and things are moving along with that, and hoping soon to have some lead gifts in place so we can make the next go into the next phase. And I missed the SWAC meeting on Thursday morning because of the snow. I couldn't get out and couldn't see if I had gotten out. It was pretty bad. Now I find out I was the only pansy in the group. Everyone else made it, so I'm not sure how they did. But in my area, it was zero visibility that morning, so I did not make that. I did get to the land management meeting for the diversion on Thursday afternoon, and there we went over the acquisitions that have been made and the ones that are in process, and talked about some different processes there, and looking forward soon to getting the report from the insurance people as to how we're going to cover losses to the farmers if their land is flooded. So that'll be coming forward, I think, in the next month or so. I did have a meeting last week with Extension, talking about this halftime position that we've talked about many times, halftime 4-H position. And we did have it, 5 or 6 years ago, and it was dropped for budgetary reasons, and they've asked for it each year, and we've talked about maybe finding some of last year's money to cover that. And I think they've come up with, they think they can come up with $15,000 towards that from the extension grant that they've gotten from the Glendon Farmers family. And if that's the case, there'd be only about $20,000 left for us to come up with, and we could have a halftime position for the year. So hopefully we can bring that to the board for discussion and in action in the next week or so, and we will let you know when that can happen. Then I did go to the highway tracking. I had another meeting in between, so I was late, but I got to the highway township meeting, and as everybody said, people received that message very well, and just the fact we're meeting with them, I think, really gives the township officers a feeling like they're participating in the decision making, and it's really a positive for it takes away a lot of the negative we used to feel when we made these presentations. They're seeing themselves as part of the system, not a we and them kind of thing. So that's very positive, I think. So that's all I had.
Johnny, want to comment too on that extension issue. It's something that I certainly had talked to them about while I was on that committee, and we also talked about, if you couldn't afford the full half position, could we find dollars that could be used to entice college kids to come in and help with some of these after-school programs and things that are going on, to be used like for stipends for them, and at the same time it helps give them a little bit of education and out there. And I flat out told the extension committee that I supported that effort if we couldn't do the full halftime, the halftime deal we put in there, then it comes right back to us again next year. Can we have it? And we'd have to just weigh that. But one of the things that I talked about was let's take a look at what our revenues over expenditures were for 2013, and certainly because I was saying if we see adequate revenues over expenditures, it makes it a lot easier to have us do this. Now, obviously, if it came in the other way, which I don't believe it will, and I never have felt that way, then it would be a little bit tougher. But the question, how close are we on knowing the revenues over expenditures for 13, Brian?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I do have that on my item to address, and
today on your report?
No, that'll be a formal report to the board.
Yeah, okay.
But Lori said that they're very, very close, so I'll be talking to her about getting those final figures, and they're always within, right around 98, 99% even at this stage of the game. But
I think as we as we wrapped up the 2014 budget, there was the issue of the extension dollars and one or two other items that I think our board really would have liked to have done a little bit more with, but we were just in a position where we couldn't. But I would certainly be in favor of looking at this. But I do think we need to see those,
Yep.
that year-end report first.
One thing, Kevin, on that is that my understanding is that we did not spend any of the 25,000 that was put into the
Unanticipated.
unanticipated. And so, for this year, we're starting, maybe April, it could start maybe April 1st, we'd have 3/4 of the year. Could take out enough for that to cover this year, and then look at the budgeting for a year from now. That'd be
Well,
one way to do it
we have-
without changing budget at all. It's
Yeah.
already there. So.
Well, we have some options, but I know that by having that position, there's an awful lot of good that's done with the youth throughout the county, so I guess I'm open to that. So Frank, you're...
Well, I guess, too, I've been on the extension committee, and, they've been asking for this half position, but somehow or other, I would like some sort of a presentation, what does the 4-H coordinator all do? What's all involved in it that they need another half-time person, and I think, a presentation to us. Even though I've been involved in some of it,
They'd be happy to do that.
I think some sort of presentation telling us why they need it more, probably would help me a little.
Well,
more.
I take that as a request, and so we're going to forward that request to our administrator and see if we can get a presentation here for you.
Well,
That's going to be good for all of us.
Yep.
So
Good.
I think Frank will get that done.
okay.
Okay. Because I know they'll be happy to come and do it for us. Okay.
Did you have other things besides that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were done. Okay.
And you started.
But I wanted to comment on the extension one. Okay, then also, we did have highway tracking, and of course, we did act on those issues today in terms of the rates established, which I agree with John. The averaging that 5-year deal turned out to be a good way to go. I think you're going to see our 5-year plan coming forward to the board for final approval here coming up very shortly. If not, maybe by the next meeting, that should be done. The solid waste advisory meeting that we had, that was our first opportunity to introduce Kirk to the group, and they kind of took a liking to him right away, and they certainly saw how aggressive he could be and wants to be in improving that whole area. We spent a little bit of time, we got a report from Wink on where we stand with our permit renewal process, which is coming up this year, and there's some work that needs to be done to get that 2014 permit redone and renewed. That same day, of course, we had our diversion authority meeting. John touched base on the land management part of that. Typically, the diversion authority receives recommendations from different subgroups as far as things to do. And this last meeting, there wasn't a whole lot of out of the ordinary activity. We did act on a memorandum of understanding for construction for 2014, and that was all staying in line with what the original budget of 70-some million that was planned for the year. And we did receive an update from the Basin Commission on a study that they've been doing for us regarding the dollars that the diversion authority is willing to put in for retention within the region that would benefit the FM area. And so we're working on the criteria as to who would apply, how they would apply, and how we would choose the appropriate projects that would be beneficial to also reducing the amount of water that comes through the Red River from here to Halstead. And That is all I have.
Kevin, I have one in addition to this thing with retention. I talked to Sharon Josephson the other day, and she said that new Farm Bill has $35 million
Yes.
in it to add to the $25 million that the diversion authority has put together. So we've got $60 million to work with in the
Right.
retention there. So.
And these folks that have been working on the Basin Commission that have been working on this, they've really done a good job, because what they're also doing is because they started saying, well, okay, the diversion money could potentially offer up to $400 per acre foot of land. But the nice thing about that is if it's done appropriately, that $400 leverages more money through other programs, and so it can go a lot further. So they've been doing a really good job, I think, in trying to help the diversion authority come up with what is the best process for choosing what is the best projects to implement to help with what we all want to have, and that's to see the basin-wide approach to floodwater. So, you got any more, John? Okay, Brian.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And last week I was not with you for a board meeting. I took a little vacation, well-deserved, I may add. Just for a little bit of humor here.
we're gonna be here
Yes,
on-
we needed very little.
We're going to be here for a debate long.
Debate that out. Okay, very good. Well, some people in this room don't feel the need of vacation, like our chair. So
What is that word?
yeah, it works too hard. But yeah, solid waste. A lot been said about that. That I thought it was extremely a positive meeting. Good forward-thinking projects that we're looking at. This morning we did have the PIC meeting, and the one issue that we're kind of struggling through is looking at a leave policy in which you can transfer leave from one employee to another. And we want to be inclusive and include all of the different scenarios that could happen, but yet we want to be accountable and have a solid program for it, too. So it's been a little bit of a struggle. It's been a topic for a couple of meetings now, and I think we'll have a very good product that comes to the board on it. Worked through some different personnel issues recently. Had the land management, enough's been said, the diversion authority. We had another diversion meeting called a project partnership diversion meeting. It's an administrative meeting in regards to it. Township meeting, I attended that with the township officers. Went extremely well, I thought. I visited with Chair Campbell and Rhonda, referenced the presentation that you had last week, and at his request, we will be setting up a meeting and looking at some policies and things along those lines. I know there was an awful lot of information that was given there, and I guess one example, and I think he had well over $2 million that were outstanding in regards to the detox center. And of course, what that amounts to almost is like if we were to charge for holding prisoners in a jail. These aren't prisoners, but they do come in many times. They're people that are off the street that come in for detox. We're not going to collect anything from them. The daily rate is $320. We have to assess it so that we have it on the books in the event that there is something to collect along the way. But we will work through that. We'll come back with a very good explanation of things and a policy as how we're going to move forward. And Commissioner Campbell has spoken to me on that, and I've talked to Rhonda. So we'll be getting that going in the next couple of weeks. So. Preparing that, in the process of preparing the end-of-the-year financial report, so that'll be to you very soon as well. The one thing that I do want to get a little bit of consent on, and we've talked about this, but ag land, we've sent some messages in regards to that. MRCC is looking at supporting some on that. And if you noticed the article, and I think it was the weekend paper, in regards to the House Speaker, Paul Thiessen, is sponsoring some legislation for some tax breaks on ag land. And so that'll be moving forward. And the meeting of the MRCC on next Tuesday night down in St. Paul, is going to involve presentations on the legislation that is going to move forward. And frankly, yesterday I got a call from Dan Larson and tried to pass it off on Grant, but no such luck. Anyway, he would like me to say a 2 to 3 minutes or so in regards to why we support this, and so I guess I just wanted to make absolute sure that the board is supportive of that. I don't want to say something that the board isn't. I'm seeing nods, so I guess we support that concept on it. So I'll be making a little presentation to that MRCC meeting.
Yeah, I know that's was one that Becker County was interested to in having that be one of MRCC's priorities, and it really wasn't listed as one of their things to go after.
Right.
So I think it's good that Brian will be addressing that next week. And while we're on that, there was that list that MRCC put out about what we would think MRCC should prioritize for. You know, maybe you can get back to Dan on that too, if you're going to be dealing with that. But I looked at it and I just thought that protecting that Parks and Trails legacy money was one of them, and then bonding for road improvements and comprehensive transportation. And they've got one in there for renewable energy too, which will probably be important for us in the future. So. I don't know if anybody else had a chance to look at that list, but.
Okay, and the final item I have is just, I was out to motor vehicle yesterday. They're really coming along. We're going to have a construction meeting tomorrow, but made a lot of progress. They were just, they had a cement truck out there yesterday filling in. They've done all the under the cement plumbing, and they've done some framing, and it's you can now visualize and it's starting to look pretty good.
So if I popped over there, I'll see something?
Yes, you will. Please do. Yeah.
I think I'm going to go there after we're done here, just to take a look.
Yep. Good. Yeah, you'll be pleased, I think, with the progress that they're making.
Where can we come in without going through the?
Right, just go in the north door there, or there, yeah, there's a north blue doors where you can come in on the north side, so. Thank
Does that
you, Mr.
complete
Chair.
your report?
That completes my report.
I just want to add a little bit, because I forgot that I was supposed to report on the PIC committee as well, and I just do want to say that this, we have come to what we believe is a good conclusion and recommendation regarding this change to the leave donation policy. And so I think you'll be seeing that come before the board next week if Darren and Jenny get the language done, and I'm sure they will. The other thing that we did spend some time on was the placement on the salary grid for step adjustments on promotions. There's some varieties and discrepancies in there, so we might have to, we're trying to come up with a way we can tweak that so it's it becomes a fairness issue for everybody. So, but I think we've got some good ideas to help resolve that as well. And then there was one other, just a little language change on internal promotions and how that process should be, so that everybody and anybody who would like to have the ability to apply for that position, who meets the minimum qualification, should be able to do so. So those were kind of the three things we came up with today, and I think we're well on our way to what should be some good resolved and improvement in those policies.
I've got a couple of things that just, for next week, wondering, I've got really conflicts on Tuesday night. I'd like to be at the MRCC thing, but we've got Planning Commission. So I got to find out how significant that meeting would be. But also there's the MetroCog transportation plan open house that night. Are those of you who are not going to St. Paul able to go to that? I mean, and what input should we have on that? I mean, that's a pretty significant long-range thing, and I'm not sure we've really talked about that. It's from 6 to 8 at HHIC, the Heritage Center. MetroCog Transportation Plan.
What day is it? That's Tuesday?
Tuesday night,
The
yeah.
25th.
They got some on Wednesday and Thursday too, don't they?
Well, they got several of them, but I
Yeah,
don't.
there's one in West Fargo, there's one in...
Yeah, this is the one in Moorhead, though.
The one in Moorhead, there's also one in the City Hall in Fargo.
Yeah. So I don't know what kind of input we as a county board should have in that. I mean, I could, any of us can go and express our own feelings, but is there something we should be expressing from the county's point of view? So, I don't know, just a question that we should...
Vicki, anything for us today?
You have, there's a drug court tomorrow at 1:15, open house.
Okay.
Graduation.
All right, that's it. We're adjourned.